It's been up and down. Haven't always had the results that we wanted. I think it was a really tough start to the season, and looking at the August run of games, I think I said to you, you have to sort of hit the ground running, and I think I said I was a little bit nervous about some of the signings we made, and I was actually looking at Twitter at something that I'd reposted, and one of them was about Rui Font, and I think really that's got to go down as a big a massive failure of a project. And you think about what you can get for £9 million. I've actually booed him, which I don't often. It's really bad. But the two players that I think really letting the side down at the moment are Button and Font. I was thinking about Font actually, whether he's being used in a position that's not right for him. And I think we've had a problem at number 9 for a few years. I think playing Berbatov in our relegation season on his own up front, it was never going to work. He needed someone quick in front of him who was going to sort of run the line a bit more. And I think with Font, actually, he hasn't shown much. He's not a hard worker, only scored 1 goal, doesn't really do much for the team apart from sort of pass it short, collect it, pass it short, collect it, pass it short. But actually, I thought if you bring him more into a number 10 role, I saw him do 1 good pass in, I think it was against Millwall. He dropped off a little bit deeper, and I think he sort of suited. So I think maybe if you have him behind one of the sort of pacier strikers, yeah, you can see that as well. And I think the fans are getting on his back, but you've got to you've got to feed the fans something. And I think realistically, what has he got? He's not quick. Doesn't seem to have that great a shot on him. Positionally, not that great. So I think it's just a wrong fit for the club, to be honest.
What would you do with Font? Would you give him a run of games? Would you loan him back to Braga? What would you do with him?
I'd loan him out, to be honest. I think just get him out and get the players focused on this is our squad and this is what we need to deal with. I think when he came out against Sheffield United, I wasn't at the game, but I was following it from Disneyland. I was on holiday. In that game, having Sessegnon up front, I've been saying it for weeks. When I see Sessegnon playing at left back, I sort of despair a little bit, because I know what the opposition are going to do. They're going to pump the cross balls in, so the ball will pumped just behind him where he's on the back foot, and they're going to double team him. So his decision making at left back and sort of his nous, you could say, I just don't think is what we need, and I think we really are missing Malone. So pushing him forward, getting Dennis into left back, I think that's actually a little bit more positive. Also, I'm really surprised I'd ever say it, but I think we're missing Martin. That's how far we've gone back. And I was slagging off Martin all last season, but actually we are missing someone to just get the goals. And if Font was to score a few goals, then I think it would make up for what he lacks in other departments. But you've got to say, what's he? I think when he plays, you're looking at playing with basically 10 men, and that's where we're sort of coming unstuck. I think we kept the nucleus of the team, we kept most of the team, and I love that we've kept Tom Kearney. I think he's the linchpin, and when he came back against Preston, when we were 2-0 down, and he came on at half-time, we were thinking about leaving. As soon as he came back on, it's like, this is going to be a different game, and boss possession, and eventually turn the game round. And actually, in that game, one of the guys that I go with, his wife was there, and she hasn't been for a few years. And she, at half-time we were apologising, saying, if they get another goal, we might have to go back. And to get that last, Dennis trickled the header in the 94th minute, whatever. And the elation, she said it was like coming out of a nightclub at 4 a.m, having danced all night. best feelings, and she knew why we've been excited going back to Fulham. And what I'll say is, though we haven't had the march that we talked about at the start of the season towards sort of first, second, being there in the playoff places, although we're not anywhere near that at the moment, it's been good. I think there's been really good value for entertainment. A little bit different last season. Actually, I've still enjoyed the games, and going to the pub, chatting to opposition fans, they're terrified of Fulham. But at the same time, you've got to listen to their feedback. They say we've lost our edge in attack, in finishing. We're still creative, but the guys who are going to just make something happen out of nothing. Aluko didn't get the numbers in terms of goals and assists, but he was very intelligent, and he would start everything going. And we've just a bit blunted. I was at the QPR game away, and that was just amazing. A great win away, and to see Brentford get pipped 2 goals in the 93rd and 94th minute when they were 2-0 up going into extra time. We were close to that, but we hung on. So I think it's the Championship. You meet so many different people coming to the game, and the fans are not plastic fans, and I'm happy staying in the Championship in a way, because you get to see more games, and it's just really entertaining. I think the refereeing that's been something. There was a Sheffield United supporter put up on Facebook about how Fulham had played slightly dirtier, so they were slowing down for goal kicks and disrupting play, pretending to be injured. And I'd say a lot of the games, that's what was happening at the Cottage. Teams coming and playing the dark arts, the referee sort of pressing down on them well enough, and I think that's something that we've started to bring in. And we did it a little bit against Millwall and we won, but at the expense of some of the beautiful football. So tricky. What would you rather see? Up front, I think we're looking at Dwight Gale from Newcastle. Unfortunately, he started scoring lots of goals. Scored against Man United recently and Chelsea, but I think we were quite close to him. And then we were looking at a Uruguayan guy from Bordeaux in the summer, Roland. And I can't remember if I told you in the summer, but actually I thought he was the sort of striker that we needed. A bit like the Dembele, our last Dembele mould. Someone who's quick, who's going to get the defenders, who's going to play the channels. And I think Aite, when he plays the channels, when he plays that false number 9, I think that's our best option, because it means we can overload the wings a little bit. I think that's the best. Then you can get everyone you push back them, and you get everyone on either wing and spreading the play, and the opposition can't seem to work it out, and they lump it back, and then that's when we play well.
Can I throw a name to you for the January transfer window, and you tell me what you think? Yeah. It's World Cup year, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a player at Newcastle that's not playing at the moment. It's called Aleksandar Mitrovic. He's a bit of a maverick.
He is a maverick.
He's Serbian, and he's obviously got issues, so I'm not going to deny that.
Gets a lot of red cards.
Yeah, lots of red cards. But he's definitely a box player, and he's got a presence about him, and he's Serbian, so Slavica can talk to him and get
hopefully
the best.
Put his arm over his shoulder.
Yeah. As a loan. I'm still talking as a loan, not as a permanent deal.
Yeah, and actually there's been talk of him going back to Anderlecht as a gossip, and him not being sold at the club. So it could be a good option. I think we've had Mavericks. I think Tarabat Tarabat's been everywhere, but he reminds me of that wild card option. And actually Tarabat, I think, was one of the best performances I've seen from Fulham in the last 4 or 5 years against Man City, where we would keep pegging them back until the last 10 minutes. That was an okay option. So I think that would be sort of a goer if we could do it. When Klein left under a really dark cloud, a really mental cloud as well, where he was calling the police, and there were all these stories coming out, which, to be honest, makes the club look a little bit daft. After all the good work of last season, where the profile was coming up, people were saying, we were playing the best football in the league. I think they temporarily replaced him, Klein, with, I don't know his name, but a new stats guy. I think they just need to say, that, support the manager, say, look, we made a mistake with our signings in the summer, we admit that, and we're just going to back you. Here's 10-15 million quid. If you want to get a few of the players out which we signed on, loan them out to other clubs. So that's what I'd like to see. Just a couple of players out, a couple of players in, and then just get the squad settled where they know this is who we are, this is our personality, because that's what we had. We had a really settled team at the end of last season. And I think if we can get back to that, if everyone can know that they're together, and there's what I'd say is a striker, get Bettinelli in goal, and just get a new left back. Those three positions, I think behind the front three behind the striker and our midfield and our centre backs, we're sorted. So I'd love to see us go on a run. I think, there was a game before Brentford where we were only 6 points off playoff. And how fast can things change in the Championship? And we were well out of sight this time last season, and we just pushed on. So I trust the manager, and I really hope it sort of comes together a little bit. We'll see at the end of the season, but even if we're mid-table this year, if we were to lose Sessegnon in the summer, we get as much money as possible, invest, give him that money and say, look, we made some mistakes, we understand you're a great manager, we want to keep the players who are the nucleus of the team, and let's push on.
And what about the manager? What would you say about him this season, if you were to sum up him this season?
I think we were really lucky to keep him over the summer. There was a few worrying sounds when he was sort of talking about unrest and saying he'd like more sort of autonomy over transfers, and I was slightly shit myself that he was going to move on. And I think from last season and the buzz that he created around the club, I think he's got to be the best option. If you were going to get in a sort of a Harry Redknapp or Sam Allardyce, someone who's just going to play, or a Tony Pulis for the Championship, I think that's not who Fulham are in their DNA. Definitely not over the last few years. So I think it's been really lovely watching the style of football that we've had, and even if we aren't getting the results, the moments in games, the way we're snatching the draws and turning on that beautiful football and speaking to the opposition fans saying that is just beautiful to watch. I think that's what I'm loving about football, is that they play football. And when they do that, it's just like, it's the most excited I've been as a Fulham fan, under this manager. Just Felix Magath, trying to think back to him as a manager. We lost our first 7 games in the Championship, and we had 2 very near misses of getting relegated from the Championship. And there were all these stories about how he told a player to wrap their leg in cheese, and all this sort of banana stuff. And it was a really dark time to be a Fulham fan, to be honest. You'd come to games and you didn't have any expectation. But it wasn't just that, it was, the squad was getting older. We were over-relying on, 35-year-old Scotty Parker. You think back to some of the players like Tunnicliffe that we had. Actually, a lot of it I can't even remember. I think we had Roddy Yeager, players who, we needed to get clear of. And it's not that long since we were playing incredibly turgid football, like going nowhere, 2 banks of 4, and, probably the wrong people up front, no width, no speed. I think we just got to appreciate how well the manager's done. Since he's come in, he's ripped the team apart in a very short period of time, brought in a bunch of players who, sort of ragtag group. And Johansson, they were saying from Celtic, they didn't rate him at all. They said, you've been sold a dud there, and how good has he been for us? Tom Kearney from Blackburn, 2.8 million. You look at a player who could easily go for 30 million quid. So, maybe that wasn't the manager, but being able to turn all those pieces into such an exciting team to watch last season, I think you've got to appreciate the guy's got a bit of magic about him. He was really unlucky at Watford, but I think if we just back him, if we just let him off the lead and just listen to him and talk to Khan and say, look, you're close, you're getting to where we were in the past in terms of having a good chairman that we can trust. We accept that there's going to be cheerleaders coming to the game every now and again if there's American football, but just go that little bit extra, back the manager, let him off the lead and watch what he can do. If we let him do what he wanted to do from January, I'd say we could push to the playoffs.